Hello, hello, everyone. It's Friday. We made it. We made it through yet another week. I'm thrilled to see that it seems like people are starting to make their way over to my second channel, Actively Unwoke, on YouTube. We've got Gypsy Witch, we've got Leonard, we've got Catherine, we've got Deborah, we've got Melissa, we've got Spirit Matter. I'm sure we'll have some more folks too as the stream gets rolling. We've also got people over on Odyssey. We've got people over on Rockfin. We even have people over on Rumble, because I'm on Rumble now, just because you guys asked me to be. But welcome to Happy Hour. Patrice is here. Boomer is here. Average Person is here. We got the whole gang. It's like the band getting back together again. All right, guys, Happy Hour is a stream that we do every week on Friday at 5 p.m. on my second channel, youtube.com/activelyunwoke. This is a stream where we watch a woke training or presentation of some sort. We comment on it, and I drink some beer or occasionally some wine or occasionally some sake. I know that Murphy's Pool really wants me to do vodka and pink Moscato. I'm not there today because Victor actually bought the beer selection for today. So we're going to look at what Victor bought and we're going to pick from that. And we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that. If you are drinking something for happy hour today, chat in. Let us know what you're drinking, whether it be coffee, tea, water, something stronger. Let us know how you're celebrating the Friday. So today's presentation is going to be a little bit more of a traditional one. And I'm actually really curious about how this presentation is going to go. So we today are streaming this presentation called Reimagining K-12 Education for Equity. And in fact, I'll even get the stream on a, there it is. There we can see the title of the presentation. So the reason that I picked this out is, so you know how we always talk about how the ultimate goal of the woke nonsense is to destabilize the system so that they can build back up the system in their image? When I saw the name of the presentation called Reimagining K-12 Education, it just had kind of, to be honest, a little bit like a World Economic Forum type of vibe to me. I was like, reimagine education. What are you reimagining it into? And then I started looking at some of the people involved. So The Atlantic is sponsoring this. You can see here, it's underwritten by the teachers' unions. They're sponsoring this. And if we even look at some of the speakers, we're going to hear from Randi Weingarten herself today. Randi Weingarten herself is in this presentation. And the description of the presentation, this was on September 24th, 2021. So last year, but not that long ago. The pandemic has only exacerbated long-standing inequities in K-12 education. But I thought critical race theory wasn't taught in schools. Disproportionately affecting students of color and from low socioeconomic backgrounds, which of course they usually assume that those are one and the same. But it has also presented a unique opportunity to dramatically overhaul the education system. What does Randi Weingarten, the president of the Teachers Union, and Cynthia Martin, the U.S. Deputy Secretary for Education, currently under Joe Biden, and all of these other people, two of whom work for The Atlantic, how do they re-envision dramatically overhauling the education system in America? What does that mean? Now, we all know, or at least like my regular viewers will know, that what I mean when I say dramatically overhauling the education system in America is I want the public schools defunded and I want the Department of Education eliminated and I want education to be completely privatized. And I don't want us to have to pay taxes to support the public schools when the public schools are delivering us a reading proficiency rate of about 30%. I don't think we're spending our money well. And I think the private sector can do it better. And I would like children to start learning how to read and write and do math and all the basics. That's what I mean when I say overhauling the American education system. I'm just going to venture a bet that is not what Randi Weingarten and Cynthia Martin and the Atlantic and the teachers unions want you to think. So we're going to watch this here presentation and we're going to get a sense of what they mean when they say that they want to overhaul K through 12 education for equity. So that's what we're watching today for happy hour. Hunker down, get a drink. This is why we do happy hours. We need to drink when we watch these presentations. It just makes it nicer. I'm going to be honest, it just makes it nicer. Fender Bender is having some wine. Gypsy Witch is drinking some tea. Deborah Evans has got some wine. We've got Mommy with a strawberry kiwi hint. Ooh, Grandma Nay has a pink Moscato. Got some Pineapple Jones soda. So people have gotten some drinks today, which is awesome. Now, I'm going to show you my beer in a minute, and we're going to pick out what my first beer is going to be. But before we do that, please make sure you download your bingo card if you're playing bingo today. We never quite know if it's going to be a good bingo day or a bad bingo day. Sometimes I think that they're going to be good bingo days. It ends up being a sucky bingo day. And sometimes when I think it's going to be a sucky bingo day, it ends up being a great bingo day. So we don't know. But if you want to play bingo, it is in the description. Just go ahead and generate your card. Every card is unique just to you. You got your free space in the corners, or in the center rather, and then we are going for a line, or we're going for corners. Guess what? If you've got an equity block, you've already got one. Congratulations. Once we get lines or corners, shout out bingo in the chat. You will get a healthy round of applause and a virtual high five, and you will win nothing else. But after we get our first line bingo, we are going for blackout bingo. We have yet to get a blackout bingo. I have full confidence that one day we will achieve this epic feat. It will probably be Sin, if we're honest about it. Sin is probably going to get the first blackout bingo ever. We just haven't gotten there yet. We've gotten within a few squares. Maybe we'll get there today. The other thing I want to make sure you know about is that if you haven't been on my website, activelyunwoke.com yet, there are a couple things that you can do over on that site. Number one, and probably most importantly, you can pre-order my book. My book is coming out at the end of April. It is filled with case studies and tips and tricks and highly actionable and practical strategies that you can use to fight back against woke nonsense in your everyday life, including in the schools, to give everyone things that they're capable of doing, whether you can do a little bit or you can do a lot. There will be strategies in here that you can utilize, and also inspiration from some of the people who have been fighting back before you got there. And listen, it's not about when you show up to the game, right? It's about what you do when you're there. But I provided lots of strategies and hints and tips and tricks and all that good stuff. Now, the other thing you can do on activelyunwoke.com is I want you to go right here to this live events section. We've held several events on activelyunwoke.com. These two webinars have already happened, but if you want to watch the recording of either of these webinars, just go ahead. You can click on the image. You'll be taken to the recording. You just put in your name and email address, and you'll sign right up. But we have a couple things happening within the next week. On Sunday, we are going to have our locals exclusive book club for The R of the Mind. This is a book about how basically people are brainwashed to believe really authoritarian ideas. It is highly relevant to what's going on in our time. And my friend Aaron Kinesvatter, who is a former professor at the University of Vermont and a woke whistleblower, because he blew the whistle on all the crazy stuff going on at UVM, he is going to come and have a chat with us on Sunday. And I think it's going to be really great. Aaron is just such a good person and really has, he understands the woke ideology. And he was the person that introduced me to this book. So I'm really happy that we'll be doing that. The other thing I want you to know is that next week on Thursday at 7 p.m., I will be doing a presentation called What is Critical Race Theory? A Presentation and Q&A. Now, this is a very introductory presentation regarding what is critical race theory. If you attended my webinar last month about that was kind of titled something similar, you don't need to attend this one. It's going to be extremely similar content. I'm just repeating this webinar as a live version, probably about once a month, just to give people the chance to have new people come to the presentation. And really, my big ask for you guys is if you have people in your lives that do not understand what critical race theory is, or maybe have just been introduced to it, but can't really describe it and maybe still be a little bit confused about it, this is the presentation that you want to send them to. Because I'm going to give a really layperson's overview of what CRT is, what you as an average person need to know about it. I'm going to show you real world examples. We have images, we have video examples to give you a really strong sense. And frankly, I think a much more nuanced sense of what this actually is when it manifests in the real world. So please share this webinar out with your friends and family. You can sign up for free for it now over on activelyunwoke.com. But if you want to join this here book club that we're doing on Sunday, and you want to get access to all of my exclusive locals supporters perks, you do want to become a supporter in my locals. Now, my local supporters make it possible for me to do this with you every week. They make it possible for me to stream every day at 5 o'clock. They make it possible for me to spend time dissecting the woke ideology and trying to help people do it. I literally would not be able to do this without my local supporters. So I'm very, very grateful for all of you. And the way you can help me out is by becoming a member at kb.locals.com/support. The price tag is $5 a month. So it keeps it nice and cheap so everyone can afford it. If you want an even cheaper monthly rate, you upgrade to our annual rate, which is $50 for the entire year. You get 2 months for free with the annual rate. You can also make a one-time gift. Now, I do accept one-time gifts through PayPal and Subscribestar. I also accept some crypto options. All of that is going to be in the description below. But I do like to encourage people to make one-time donations through Locals, because what's great about it is you unlock all the features of Locals. We do 2 Zoom calls every single week on Mondays and on Wednesdays with the Locals community. We do book club like we're doing on Sunday. We do Bitchcraft, which is a craft and bitch that we do on the second Saturday of every month. We're starting to form little small group discussions. We're starting to form an unwoke army where we're going to be coordinating and masterminding ways to fight back. There's so many things that you get access to as a Locals member. And, joining and trying it out only costs you like $5. So I promise you, you guys are going to love my community. I say it all the time. I don't have the biggest community on Locals, but I absolutely have one of the best and most engaged and most supportive and most awesome communities on the entire platform. And I just want everyone to be a part of it. So join us today at kb.locals.com/support. All right, guys. Well, the last thing we need to do before we get started is I need to have a beer. And Victor was the champion that went to the beer store the other day. And it was the day of the drama stream on YouTube. And I said, Victor, I'm going to need a drink after this stream. And so he went to the beer store and he got me a bunch of beers. He got a good selection of beers. So I didn't even need to go back today. So let me show you the selection of beers a la Victor. So we're going to start with what I think is probably the lightest one. And I can't remember. I feel like I've had some of these, but I can't remember. The latest one is this watermelon whale cake. And I do actually like the can. It's nice and light, and I like the design of the can. And it's a lighter beer. It's only 5.4%, so that bodes well. You guys are going to get to vote on which one I drink, by the way. First, I'm not going to drink all of these in the course of the stream. I'm not going to get sloshed or anything. But these are just the selection. The next one we have, I feel like I've had this one before, but I don't remember. Peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly, wheat beer. This is from Liquid Therapy. Let's see what the alcohol on this is. Hang on. Does it say? 5.3%, even less than the watermelon. Okay. Now, these next two are from the same brewery, and I think they're going to kind of be very similar. This is from Some Brewing Company. Peanut butter whoopie pie. Victor knows I like peanut butter beers, is what's going on there. And then, rounding it all out, we also have just a general whoopie pie stout. So, which one should I drink first? Should I drink watermelon? Actually, let me rate it in for you guys. For the first one, I want to choose from watermelon or peanut butter and jelly. Which one should I drink first? Watermelon or peanut butter jelly? Lock in your votes in the chat right now. I'll check in on Odyssey. Liberty Lions over on Odyssey. Lions Dens over on Odyssey. Bungus, thank you for joining me over on Odyssey. Let's see who we've got on Rockfin. No one's over there just yet. And we're also on Rumble. Oh, people want the watermelon. It's a watermelon type of day. All right, we can do the watermelon. I'm actually interested to find out what the watermelon tastes like. Yeah, I think it's always good to start with your lighter beer and then kind of like work your way towards the darker beer. So let's pour our watermelon beer. I'm just curious, have I inspired anyone in the course of doing these happy hours to, like, go to the craft beer store and to try some new beers? Like, have I inspired you guys to do that at all? Because that'd be pretty rad. Beer is just so good. There's so many flavors of beer. Anyone who says that they don't like beer, like, I think that they're liars or that they just haven't found the right beer for them. Oh, this smells so fruity. Oh god, as soon as I cracked it open, I could smell the watermelon. Oh, look at that. It's gonna be nice and light. Good choice, guys. Look at how pretty that is. This is a watermelon cream ale. Ah. Oh, Boom Her says I have a jalapeno raspberry in the fridge. That sounds great. This smells so watermelon. Look, it's changing color. Do you guys see that? It got like more like deep. Yes, Spirit Matter says beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. Absolutely. Mm. Oh my god, this is great. This is like this would be the best beer ever on just like a really hot day, like sitting outside, having the grill going. That's what this beer is. This is like a nice summer type of beer. Boom her, I know how to pour a beer properly. I just don't do it for the purpose of the streams. I like the drama. I do know how to pour a beer, but it also gives it really nice head. Oh, this is a delicious beer. Mm. Well done, guys. Way to start off strong. All right. Who's ready to watch our presentation for happy hour? Let me get set up here, get it in the new screen. It is not a travesty, it is a joy. That is where all the aroma is, Boom. It's where all the scent of it is. It's beautiful. It's fine. It's settled. It all worked out. All right. God, insulting my beer pouring skills. All right. Sharing the audio. Okay, guys, per usual, of course, we'll fast forward through their little countdown, but per usual, please let me know if you can't hear the audio for whatever reason. It's like good loud audio today. You guys can hear the audio, right? That's coming through.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susan Solney, a contributor to Atlantic Live, and welcome to the Atlantic Festival. We're so glad you're here. If you're a parent or a teacher, the topic of conversation over the next hour will be something close to your heart, the state of K-12 education in light of the pandemic. COVID-19 and virtual learning have created new challenges for many students, and inequities have grown. But has the pandemic offered us a rare opportunity for structural reform? As students
see what I'm a little bit worried about. Like, I don't normally like to do these professionally produced presentations because I find like if we watch like a college lecture or something like that, we get into like they say the craziest shit because they forget they're being filmed. But in these professional presentations, I feel like everyone is reading off a script. But what usually happens, and we need to be sure to pay attention to this, is somewhere during the presentation, someone's going to say something crazy. So we really need to pay attention for that. Like there's always a juicy nugget. Liberty Lion was trying to recruit people over to Odyssey or Rumble. Well, guys, I do stream on all the different platforms. So if you don't want to watch on YouTube, please feel free to watch on any of the alt tech platforms, as long as you're watching somewhere. But the chat is definitely best on YouTube, unless Liberty Lion can convince everyone to come over to Odyssey. But you know, you're more than welcome to watch anywhere. Anyway, let's keep going.
Settle in for a new year, we'll explore what the future might hold. But before we get started, two quick notes. We want to thank our underwriter, the American Federation of Teachers, for support of the Atlantic Festival and our journalism here at the Atlantic. And we want to remind all of you at home that you can participate in the conversation via the Q&A tab. Please tell us where you're from, and if you ask a question, we can add it to the conversation. Now, let's get started.
Forgot my knitting. I left my knitting downstairs.
Meeting the demands of the 21st century. Please welcome U.S. Department of Education Deputy Secretary Cynthia Martin. Atlantic staff writer Adam Harris is here to lead the conversation.
Thank you so much for joining us, Deputy Secretary Martin.
I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you.
So this has been a difficult year for administrators and students alike. And as students return to the classroom, we're not really where we thought we would be this fall in terms of COVID rates, and it's a very difficult situation. The pandemic has really only highlighted and exacerbated some of the inequities in our school systems.
Who could have predicted that the pandemic wouldn't dissipate? Who could have predicted? I know we're all shocked.
So I guess my first question is, how has the American Rescue Plan really sort of sought to address the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on underserved students and address the impacts of COVID-19 more generally?
Hang on. Okay, so why... Listen, I understand we're talking about equity, but if we're having a conversation about serving students, shouldn't we be having a conversation about serving all students, not just a specific segment of students? Because all students, any student that had their learning environment disrupted in the course of the pandemic, like, they felt an impact of that. It doesn't matter if they're rich or poor or black and white, or they live in the city or they live in a rural area. It doesn't matter. Like, the first question should have been, how should we better serve all students, not just underserved students?
You said it exactly right when you're framing where we are, and we're not exactly where we thought we would be, and what is possible, and how this plan is meant to help us heal and learn and grow together and make the kinds of investments that are absolutely necessary right now.
Okay. A budget. So the American Rescue Plan does not heal anything. Let's just be clear. Like, the fact that she led with, we believe that the American Rescue Plan will let us heal. Like, I'm sorry, it is a budget. It is a distribution of money. That doesn't heal anything. If you expect money to instantly fix problems, that is not going to work.
Now, and we see this as a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us to deliver on what I say is the hope and the promise of public education, and the vision where every student and every family is going to be able to get what they need.
The pandemic was the once-in-a-generation opportunity to deliver on the hope and promise of public education. Why, if public education was a fixable thing? First of all, if public education was so broken that it required a pandemic to be able to fix it, to deliver on its hope and promise, then what the hell have these people been doing for decades? What the hell have the teachers' unions been doing for decades? Why did they only come to an inflection point during the pandemic? That doesn't make any sense. But also, she literally just said that they utilized a crisis. That it required that they took advantage of a crisis to be able to fulfill the full vision of what education should be. Like, what she just said was, this is why, okay, I take back what I said about this not being good. Like, I now have faith. Let's just rewind and listen to that again.
And make the kinds of investments that are absolutely necessary right now. And we see this as a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us to deliver on what I say is the hope and the promise of public education. And
why would the pandemic, why would it require a pandemic to deliver on the hope and promise of public education if the hope and promise of public education is so obvious? If what they have envisioned as the hope and promise of public education is so real and so obvious and so attainable, then it would not require a pandemic in order to do it. Thank you, Catherine, for the super sticker. I appreciate it.
The vision where every student and every family is going to be able to get what they need when they need it, in the way that they need it, so that they can thrive and contribute. And, we talk about our educators also needing what they need to be able to serve our families and our communities. And it starts with health and safety. And the American Rescue Plan understands that we first have to ensure health and safety. And each community is different. Each child, each family, each school, each community has different.
Health and safety for who? Health and safety for who? Because children were not affected by COVID. And so if we're talking about public education delivering for children, and health and safety being the number one thing that the American Rescue Plan had to deliver to fulfill the hope and promise of public education, then that doesn't make sense. It wasn't about health and safety for the children. It was only ever about health and safety for the teachers, because the media had spun the teachers up into such a frenzy that they believed that if they didn't have virtual learning and they didn't and masking kids in classrooms every day, that the teachers wouldn't be healthy and safety and in safety, because the children didn't need that. The children never needed that. It was always and forever about the teachers. And keep in mind, this is the Deputy Secretary of Education. This woman doesn't work for the teachers' unions. We're going to hear from Randy Weingarten in a little bit, apparently. But this woman is the Deputy Secretary of Education. And she's talking about health and safety being their number one priority. Health and safety was never an issue for the students. It was only an issue for the teachers. So why is the Department of Education working for the teachers and not the students? That's my question.
Needs. And when we talk about equity, which is a cornerstone of everything that we're doing in this moving forward, we have to understand that your demography should not determine your destiny. And we have to understand, in defining equity, it's very unique to each community. And when you see everybody gets what they need, when they need it, in the way that they need it, we can't pretend to say we know what each community needs. This is designed to help communities get what they need. And come out of this pandemic, we need to be able to provide community by community, school by school, child by child, what they need. And it begins with health and safety and mitigations, because we know that that is of primary importance, but it doesn't end there. That's the recovery part.
She didn't say anything just then, but what really caught my eye, that was like word salad. Like, I want to see some salad in the chat right now, because none of what she just said actually meant anything. But what did catch my ear, and it was at the very beginning. Did you guys catch it when I hit play again? Did you guys catch what she said? She said, equity is going to be the center of what we do moving forward. I just want to rewind that, because I wanted to hear her out and see if she actually defined what equity was. But I just want to play that back again. I don't know exactly when I stopped it, so.
Need it so that they can thrive and contribute. And, we talk about our educators also needing what they need to be able to serve our families and our communities. And it starts with health and safety. And the American Rescue Plan understands that we first have to ensure health and safety. And each community is different. Each child, each family, each school, each community has different needs. And when we talk about equity, which is a cornerstone of everything that we're doing in this movement.
When we talk about equity, which is the cornerstone of everything that we're doing, who wants to define equity in the chat? We do this every week, but we have new viewers every week. We have new participants every week. Let's define equity. What's equity? Well, yeah, I mean, graphically, Alex, this is the actual real life definition of equity, but that's not the equity that we're talking about. What are we saying when we say equity is the cornerstone of everything that we're doing? Can we just call it racism? That might be the easiest way to define it. Oh, yes. Equity is the lowest common denominator. I love that. I love that definition. Equity is about the lowest common denominator. Equal outcomes, equality of outcomes, same outcomes for everyone. Equity, you will have nothing and you will be happy. Exactly.
Moving forward, we have to understand that your demography should not determine your destiny. And we have to understand, in defining equity, it's very unique to each community. And when you see everybody gets what they need, when they need it, in the way that they need it, we can't pretend to say we know what each community needs. This is designed to help communities get what they need. And coming out of this pandemic, we need to be able to provide community by community, school by school, child by child, what they need. And it begins with health and safety and mitigations, because we know that that is of primary importance, but it doesn't end there. That's the recovery part.
Yeah, and you mentioned that sort of hope.
I just love all these definitions of equity, by the way. I love all these definitions of equity. We should make, in the Unwoke Army, we should make a whole page of definitions for equity, describing it in different ways. I just love that. You guys did such a good job.
Hope and promise of public education, and we haven't always in America have had a sort of equal access to the hope and promise of public education. And with 53% of our public school students now students of color, according to the National Center for Education Statistics, addressing those inequities in our education system is kind of critical for our children and for our nation's kind of collective health. So I guess what needs to be addressed first to build our education system with that equity at its core, and what really has to change, and sort of what would help?
Well, and defining equity, like I just said, is making it individualized and community and student specific. We like to say you have to know each student in each community by name and by need if you're truly going to address the needs in an equitable fashion. And so where there's a greater need, there needs to be greater support. And when there's a concentration of need, there needs to be greater support. So that is the path forward. And I truly believe that we need to figure out
where there is greater need, there needs to be greater support. When there is a greater concentration of need, there needs to be greater support. That all sounds fine, well and good. And it does. Like, they know how to package this stuff. They're like, oh, kids need things. We need to support that need. Okay, that all sounds fine, well and good. How are you defining need? That's the question. How is she defining need? By what standard is she defining need? Because if I were to look in the description of this, I'm going to make the assumption that they're defining need based on race. Based on race, and also, to be fair, based on socioeconomic status. But which is first? Race and socioeconomic status. So if I were to guess, I would say she's probably defining need based on race. Exactly. Deborah Evans, what are their operational definitions? That's exactly right. These are the things we need to like be nitpicky about, because did you see just how like she was so slick at describing that? She like it, and it makes total sense. And this is why people get fooled. She's like, some communities might need different things. Other communities might need different things than those previous communities. We just want to make sure that everyone has what they need. Don't you want everyone to have what they need? Well, sure, we want everyone to have what they need, but not if you're defining need based on their race.
All of the ways that we're going to be able to provide every child, every family with access. And that equity lens begins with affordable early childhood education, ensuring that every student, no matter their background, their zip code, their circumstances, is able to have a high quality education. And when we talk about
now, I'm not necessarily opposed to early childhood education, but given what we've watched in Happy Hour before, the thing that I wonder is, what does that curriculum look like? Why are they this is like, I feel like I get so conspiratorial sometimes, because I'm like, this is how I heard that. Let me know if this resonates with you guys. What I heard is, we want to focus on early childhood education because we know that the earlier we get a hold of your students, the earlier we can start brainwashing them. And the earlier we can start brainwashing them, the more difficult it's going to be for you to undo the things that we teach them later. That was what I heard when she said, we just want to focus on early childhood education. Did anyone else hear that? Or am I just making stuff up?
Students with disabilities, multilingual learners, any student with special needs, that this is being reimagined in a way that we are understanding the strengths, gifts, talents, assets, and abilities that our children are bringing to us into the classrooms, whether that be language, culture, background. They have gifts, strengths, and talents, and they have needs. And so do we know each student through their strengths first, but do we know them by name and by need? And then are we able to design the systems that are going to give them the opportunities that they need to live their best lives, follow their dreams? We have an opportunity now to reimagine college and career pathways so that every student can join the workforce, and that allows them to achieve their dreams. We can develop, when we go after equity, like you're mentioning, develop those stronger through lines between preschool and higher education so that lifelong learning is the expectation, not the exception. It's not an invitation.
Lifelong learning is the expectation. Why do you need to go to a government school from the time you're 4 years old in order to learn? You can be a lifelong learner without even completing a day of higher education. And I say that as someone who has completed quite a bit of higher education, right? You don't need to complete one single day of higher education in order to be a lifelong learner. Yeah, Sid. Oh my God. Sid, lifelong brainwashing. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It's an expectation, and being able to make higher education more accessible, more affordable. But you start with the earliest learners and you make this through line all the way through, but begin student by student, understanding by name and by need what they truly need to live their best life.
Is she talking about, okay, am I reading too much into this to say that she's talking about training students from the time they're 4 years old to believe they need to go to college? Is that what she's really talking about? Training students from the time they are 4 years old to believe that in order to be successful in the world, they need to go to college, because the only way to become a lifelong learner is to go to college and to learn what we tell you to learn. Am I reading too much into that?
And achieve their dreams and goals.
And one more big picture question. So, President Biden's Build Back Better agenda aims to infuse hundreds of billions of dollars into virtually every aspect of education from K.
Why is the Atlantic shilling for a bill? This guy is a journalist, a staff writer for the Atlantic. Why? And this was back in September, remember? So we have moved beyond this bill now, thank God. But why is the Atlantic shilling for a bill? If this guy Adam Harris is an objective journalist, then why is he like, the Build Back Better plan is so great because it infuses all this money into education, and don't you want to make sure that people just have what they need? Holy shit, Sam, you're right. Holy shit. Look, do you guys see the book in the background? Hang on. I need to take a screenshot of this. It says the state must provide. It actually says the state must provide. Hang on. I need to I know I'm doing this live, but I need to be able to tweet this out. Holy Sam. Good catch, dude. Good catch. Oh my God, hang on. I'm just creating a screenshot with a square to highlight the offending book. The state must provide. Sam, you are the winner of the happy hour so far. Everyone cheers for Sam. Cheers to you, Sam. Incognito, train kids to go to college and be in debt forever. Exactly. And again, like, listen, I'm still counting on Joe Biden to forgive my student loans. I still think it's going to happen. I'm still counting on Joe Biden to forgive my student loans. But I actually don't regret going to college. I don't regret any of it. I don't regret. I loved my time at Boston University. Boston University is like what I consider to be my alma mater. The rest of my college was online. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and not that like I have like, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong about that. It's just like Boston University was my college experience. I loved Boston University. And I'm not upset at all that I did an MBA, and I'm not upset at all that I did a PhD. It allowed me to do the work I'm doing. So I don't think there's anything wrong with higher education, but I also didn't go through an indoctrination factory. You know what's funny? When I went to Boston University, the chancellor of the school was very conservative. Boston University was not a liberal indoctrination factory when I was there. Now, I hated the chancellor of the university while I was there because he was so conservative. I was like, this is bullshit. But literally no college that I went to was a woke indoctrination factory. I never had to do any of that shit. And so I'm really grateful for that. Anyway, let's keep going.
K through 12 through, higher ed with HBCUs, minority serving institutions. So what are some of the key tenets of the plan, and what are the desired outcomes?
Yeah, like you said earlier, the ARP was just the beginning, and that was intended for
The ARP
recovery,
was
and
just
those
the
funds have
beginning.
to be used by 2023, and a lot of districts are well underway in implementing those spending plans. It's the next step that you're getting after, and I appreciate you asking and giving me a chance to talk about that, because we can't just stop with the recovery part. The next step is sustainability. We have to ensure that the president's Build Back Better agenda is implemented so that we can cement this work for generations to come. It's not a short-term thing, it is a long-term thing. And the agenda means this historic investment in the innovative approaches and lessons that have been.
They're literally just shilling for the Build Back Better bill. This is literally a presentation where they're just shilling for a bill. I mean, I guess we shouldn't be surprised.
Learned during this pandemic, and it gives us the power to change the course of the pandemic. We're building a bridge to economic recovery. We're transforming students' educational experiences. It's really about ensuring that America wins the future. The Build Back Better agenda is about helping us reclaim our global standing as an economic power, as an equitable society, and as a moral leader. But I will say this agenda starts with education. The broader agenda must begin with education. A nation's investment proves its value, and no investment matters.
Didn't the Build Back Better bill, Reagan's bringing this up in the chat, so the Build Back Better bill had like universal pre-K, but didn't it also have like public, like it had funded, it had like free community college for 2 years after high school? That's what they're shilling for, right? That's why they want everyone to be lifelong learners, and the only way to be a lifelong learner is to go to college, because we're going to pay for your community college.
More than educating students who are literally our nation's future. And for U.S. education, Building Back Better means recovering from the pandemic, reinvesting in our students, and then reimagining education for generations to come. And it's providing 14 years. Cornerstone to this is providing 14 years of free education by adding 4 additional years of public education for every student. 2 years of universal pre-K, 2 years of community college. And we know how important that is. Other nations have caught up. We can take a huge leap right now with 14 years of free education, increase the maximum Pell Grant that helps millions of low and middle income students afford higher education. Think about investing in high quality job training and apprenticeships in the fastest growing sectors. We've got to have students ready to enter public health, childcare, manufacturing, information technology, clean energy. When we invest in those kinds of high quality career pathways and job trainings and apprenticeships, that's how we build back better.
Okay, so when we're giving away free community college, is that community college really free? I don't think that community college is ever free, even if you're not paying for it. Like even if you're not paying tuition for it, I should say. Is that ever free? Nope. Has to be paid for somehow. How do you think we're paying for it? Paid for by the taxpayers. Exactly. And if the taxpayers are paying for it, then the government controls it.
So every American is going to be able to develop not just the knowledge, but the skills that they need, that employers want, and that will lead to the good middle-class jobs and then the family sustaining wages. So I have to also say, with the Build Back Better agenda, I know you're ready to pop on with another question, but I have to talk about the investing and supporting and respecting our nation's teachers. We have to improve
yes, because it always comes back to the teachers. They're mark my words. In this presentation, they are going to end up talking more about the teachers than they are about the students. Just watch. We should actually clock this. We should clock how much time they spend talking about the students and what the students need. And really, I don't think that they've said anything about what the students need so far. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. Does anyone in the chat think that they have said anything about actual tangible student needs so far? Or are they just shilling for the Build Back Better bill? Because I don't think they've talked about students at all. But mark my words, they are going to spend more time talking about the teachers in this presentation than they are about the students. Because one of the things I've learned, and this is particularly true with Randy Weingarten, is she cares so much more about what the teachers need than what the students need.
Teacher preparation, support, and increase the diversity of our nation's teaching workforce. Investment in the teacher pipeline and the teacher workforce so that we are able, through these investments of Building Back Better, to help teachers get the credentials that they need in high demand areas. You know, the secretary and I are just completing a week-long reopening tour, bus tour, and we've heard all across the Midwest about this idea to invest in teacher leadership opportunities and give the
How does that help
opportunity
students
for this pipeline to grow.
How does that
compensating
help
teachers for their
students?
hard work, and that must happen. And
so we need to train teachers to be leaders, which, by the way, that means administrators, which takes them out of the classroom, which doesn't help students. And we need to make sure we're compensating teachers fairly. Okay, how does that translate to students? I'm sorry, you guys know I always get a little bit fiery whenever we do presentations about education, just because it pisses me off so much that I don't even have kids, and I feel like I care about this stuff more than most parents do.
Also inside there is just providing access to quality, affordable childcare. I think I mentioned that. And you mentioned the support for our historically Black colleges and our universities and minority serving institutions, because you go after equity when you make investment there. They prepare an outsized proportion of teachers of color and people of color who pursue careers in high demand areas like science, technology, engineering, and math. We need that. And I just say we can't afford to wait to reimagine our education system. The time is now. It's time to take these steps in the president's plan. And everybody across the board, economists across the board, are agreeing these investments, and some that I've just highlighted, will increase American prosperity, giving us strong, sustainable economic growth for decades, generations to come. And I know these investments are popular.
Well, to that point, and to, kind of respecting teachers and thinking about the ways that teachers and administrators are trying to think about the classroom in this moment, right? Your career in education started in the classroom. You went on to be a principal, and then most recently served as the superintendent of the San Diego, Unified School District. So you've been able to see the education system at sort of every level. So I'd like to ask you, two questions, kind of given that experience and thinking about this past year. How should, at a state and local level, at a superintendent level, how should we be thinking about creative solutions to, stave off, a different year for students and teachers, right? They were mostly virtual last year. And
hang on. Alex is asking an important question. I wonder what it is about left-wing psychology that makes them obsessed with authority and status. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a left-wing thing. I would say it's a woke thing. Because what do we always say about what do we always say about critical race theory? Critical race theory is not about race, it's about blank. I don't think this is not a left-wing thing. It's a woke thing. It's a Marxist thing. Critical race theory is not about race, it's about... I know there's a delay in the chat. I'm giving you guys time to chat in. I know you know the answer. Critical race theory is not about race, it's about power! Power, 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 power. Power, 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 power. And I do think that we need to be conscious of that. Like, I do think that we do need to distinguish between left wing and woke. Because again, it's like, most lefties that are asleep, and I know you're coming from a more conservative place, Alex, but like most lefties who are asleep, like they don't know what's going on. They literally don't know. There is no recognition of what is going on in the broader context. They're distracted. They're not paying attention. So I do think, and that's the audience that we actually need to hit. And so I just try to remind conservatives or people on the right, or even people who are red pilled but maybe don't consider themselves to be on either team. Like, we need to really focus on waking up the people on the left that we can wake up, because people who wake up from the left know how to fight back. They know how to organize. They know how to rally. They know how to get up and do stuff. We need them. We can't demonize them. We need them. Incognito says jobs in high demand are trade jobs with no college. Well, I think, to her credit, and she looks a little bit miserable in this, but it's just pause. She does look a little bit miserable and sad, but to her credit, she did mention trade jobs. So maybe I kind of doubt she'll talk more about that, but yeah, I agree with you. I think that the trades are something that are just not as invested in enough.
Different in a lot of places. In some places, they're kind of toggling between virtual and in person this year. So, how do we stave off potential academic regression, or ensure that students are making adequate progress?
Thank you for recognizing my long history as a teacher. I was 17 years as a classroom teacher and 10 years at an elementary school as a principal, and all of that matters in terms of what I bring. And you're asking the question.
My lived experience.
I wish that every educator in America could answer that question right now for themselves, because what you're getting at is, where does the innovation live? What has been learned? We can talk about what's been lost and what's been gained, what's been learned about our children and what they've lost, but where are the strengths, and how do you have a strengths-based approach to this? And as we reimagine going forward, the investment is there, the commitment is there, the lessons are there. And so we're going to ask ourselves really important questions as we reimagine what the future could possibly look like. We don't have to make it up. We've just lived it. And we've seen things that people will ask about the silver linings, like, what are those silver linings? Well, I've seen across the country how communities have come together. I've seen what principals have done to bring their schools together, learn from their teachers and their families, and the access that we've had to one another, and learned the only way you move students forward is by starting with what their strengths are. What are their strengths? And then how do you build on that? And all of the things that we might know about students, and what we usually look at the beginning of the year when they walk into the classroom. I was talking to a teacher in Wisconsin who said she's a first grade teacher, and she said, I'm loving meeting my students for the first time. She's calling them firster gardeners, because they didn't have a kindergarten year in person. So she feels like she's a first grade teacher thinking of.
Can you imagine? Can we just pause? I'm sorry. Can you imagine having kindergarten virtually? Can we just wrap our heads around how badly the teachers' unions have fucked us over? The damage that the teachers' unions have done in terms of learning, like, these are, okay, listen. Anything you learn before the time you're 8 years old, your brain is hyper malleable before you're 8 years old. So learning things like reading and writing and how to speak and social interaction and like language skills. Can you just imagine how much of that was robbed from people who had kindergarten virtually? Because the teachers felt unsafe? Mark my words, we are going to find that the generations that did kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade any one or any combination of those grades, they are going to be at a dramatic detriment by the time they graduate from high school. This is a generational problem that has been created by the teachers' unions and by people like Biden's Deputy Secretary of Education. Just check back with me in about 20 years. Not even 20 years, 15 years. And we'll see the impact of having kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade virtually. And I don't care if it was for 1 year or a year and a half or 2 years or however long it was, it doesn't really matter. That is dramatic learning loss that can never, ever, ever be recovered.
About what did the students miss in kindergarten, but she's meeting them where they are. And that's what good teachers know how to do. Good teachers know how to see the whole child and meet them where they are. And, as we talk about what this is looking like, you start with health and safety, you move quickly to social, emotional, and mental health needs, and then you get to academic progress. And you don't
Wait. Did you just hear her priorities? You start with health and safety, and then you get to social and emotional needs, and then, and only then, you get to academic progress. According to the Deputy Secretary of Education, academic progress is priority number 3. Let's just listen to that again. Health and safety is number 1, which we know is really not about the students, it's about the teachers. Social emotional learning is about brainwashing and having teachers practicing psychology without a license. And then, and only then, do we get to priority number 3, which is actually teaching children how to read and write. Oh, God. You guys know I'm not yelling at any of you. I'm yelling at the video. This is not about... Yes, exactly, Sam. This explains why kids graduate and can't read or do simple math. Exactly. And keep in mind, this is their scripted, practiced, rehearsed webinar. This is their produced, rehearsed webinar. They're saying precisely and exactly what they want to say. Progressive Rising, the woman right here in the red is the Deputy Secretary of Education. Let's just listen to that again. That was unbelievable.
have a kindergarten year in person. So she feels like she's a first grade teacher thinking about what did the students miss in kindergarten, but she's meeting them where they are.
I'm drinking real quick. I'm almost done this first beer.
Good teachers know how to see the whole child and meet them where they are. And, as we talk about what this is looking like, you start with health and safety, you move quickly to social, emotional, and mental health needs, and then you get to academic progress. And you don't have to wait for one and then the other and then the other. They can all happen simultaneously. But what I know is that in every teacher's heart is teachers can look the students in the eye and say, we know what you've been through. We have to know each student. We can't pretend to know at a national level what has happened to every student, but each teacher knows, because that's where the magic happens. And I just know that in our hearts as educators, the way we're building back, bridges, roads, and broadband and all these structures, those are important, but our real infrastructure, the infrastructure that matters the most, is the greatest hope for our nation, is in our communities, it's in our families, and it's in the dreams and talents of our children. And it's up to educators to unlock the genius and give students the tools that they need to recover in ways that work for them.
Dude. Okay, we're 17 minutes into this presentation, and I'm out of beer. I need more beer. That's the way this week has gone for me. It's because that watermelon beer was so delightful. All right. Next up, we're having peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. All right, who's ready for a peanut butter and jelly beer? This could be a banner happy hour. Listen, man. Listen. I've had a rough week, okay? I've had a rough week. I have come to the realization that apparently I'm someone's abusive mother, even though I haven't had children. But I'm being smeared all over the internet for being someone's abusive mother. Give me a moment, okay? Here, I'll pour it the correct way. Just for boom, I'll pour it the correct way, which is down the side of the glass. But you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna get some head at the end. Is that better, Boom? Is that more to your liking? Oh, look at how dark that got. I fucking love beer. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. This is either going to be amazing or disgusting. It looks kind of pink, though. It looks a little bit pink. Yeah, it's been a rough week, okay? It's been a rough week. Boom was that. Yay, yay. I poured it to Boom's liking. See, I know how to pour a beer. I know how to. Just a random shout out for all those cluster B personality disorders in the chat. What I do love about this week, though, and I will say this, what I do love is I feel like it has brought my locals community together. We have bonded as a result of this week. And I am eternally grateful for all of you for getting me through this week. Thank you. Oh, I gotta take a drink. I gotta take a drink before we start again. Yo. This definitely smells like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Legitly, this smells like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Now I kind of want a fluffernutter. Holy shit. My kingdom for a fluffernutter. I should send Victor to the store to get me peanut butter and fluff and bread. My kingdom for a fluffernutter. With high quality organic peanut butter, not like Jif or anything. Although I would take Jif in like a pinch. I'm going to text Victor from the upstairs and be like, Victor, please go to the store and get me peanut butter and fluff and bread so I can have a fluffernutter later. This beer is delightful. This is legitimately delightful. Oh my god, this does taste like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Holy shit. Okay, shout out to Liquid Therapy, wheat beer, peanut butter jelly. This really does taste like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Fantastic. Let's keep going.
Yeah. And thinking about the ways that, students need that sort of wraparound support, that social emotional learning, kind of all of that happening in concert. We actually have a question from the audience that actually kind of speaks to that. It's from Gay Collins, and she says, when are we going to start thinking about the role of mental health in public schools, right? It's been a very difficult year for a lot of students.
Okay. Public schools, which are government schools, we always need to remind ourselves public schools are government schools. The government should not have any say in mental health treatment. I am sorry. Asking how the public schools should fix mental health problems. No, that is unacceptable. You do not want teachers fixing the mental health problems of your children. They are not trained psychologists. And even more than that, I can already tell I'm going to get a little ranty on this presentation. Even more than that, asking public schools to fix the mental health challenge is literally asking teachers to practice psychology without a license on your students and without asking your permission for psychological intervention. No. Bad. Don't do that.
And being having the sort of social aspect of school taken away. So how do you start to put that mental health piece first, and how are you thinking about that mental health piece?
It can no longer be a side project or a person or a department or somebody that stops by every once in a while to address mental health needs. It's across every system, every student, every educator, every staff member
No.
has needs when it comes to their own social, emotional health and their mental health and well-being.
Why are we talking? Why is the deputary? You can tell I've already had a beer because I'm making up words. The deputary. Why is the Deputy Secretary of Education talking about the mental health needs of teachers? Aren't teachers adults? Aren't teachers adults with insurance plans that can go to therapy on their own fucking time? Listen, man, I know that it's not like everyone's most fun thing in the world to go to therapy. And I also know there is the problem of not enough non-woke therapists. Got it. However, there is no shame in going to therapy to take care of your emotional needs. Expecting your workplace, or even better yet, the government, to take care of your mental health needs is patently goddamn irresponsible. You are responsible for your own mental health needs. There is no shame at all in going to therapy when you need help. There is no shame at all in going to therapy when you have childhood fucking traumas that you haven't dealt with and are working your mommy issues out on the internet with other people. That's not directed at anyone here. My locals know what's going on. There's no shame in any of that. However, the public schools are not responsible for providing teacher goddamn therapy. I'm definitely a little fired up. The week has caught up with me. I can already tell. I'm not even that drunk. I'm just like acting foolish. Because like the week I've had has caught up to me. Yeah, exactly. Embrace the keyword adult. Go to therapy. Go work out your feelings and come back a healthier and better human being. But do not expect the government to provide that for you.
And it's different for every person. But when we say this pandemic has taken a disproportionate toll on people, every single person has been impacted. And it's up to the professionals when you're talking about school counselors and even our school nurses and support staff.
By the way, school counselors are normally not trained in anything having to do with psychology. I hope everyone knows that. I hope that they know that like guidance counselors and school counselors are normally not trained in anything having to do with psychology at all. No, we will never ban Graphically. Graphically Alex is the only person who appreciates my internet drama. Graphically Alex is the only person, like anytime I have internet drama, Graphically Alex just shows up. He's like, what's going on? Haven't seen you in a while. Oh God, I love you guys.
And teachers understanding, prioritizing mental health can't be the words that we say, they must be the actions that we take. And there are professionals that understand how to create approaches to mental health and well-being.
Victor is
that are
actually going to the
embedded
store right now. I'm
throughout
really
the
excited
school
about this
day.
fluffernutter
It
I'm
can't
going to
be
eat later.
one time. Let's just imagine, rather than me saying what it can't be, let's imagine what is possible when we prioritize mental health. Imagine what school communities look like where a student is crying out for help and the help is there because the system, the school, and the surrounding community with a communities-based approach has developed the relationships to wrap around a student who is crying out for help. And it's no longer the teacher by himself or herself in a classroom knowing there's a mental health need and thinking, well, I get the counselor every Monday and Friday and I hope they help it when they're there. It's not a Monday, Friday approach to mental health and well-being. It is a whole child and whole community approach to supporting mental health that I think will show the greatest benefit to our students. And I know there's fabulous examples out there we've seen across the country to lift up some really great practices around mental health and well-being. That's a whole child and whole community approach to that. And that's how we'll really address those disparities. And it can be prioritized and it is being done well.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you have children, it is no one's responsibility to solve the mental health challenges of your children except yours. That is part of what being a parent is. If your child is having mental health challenges, do not go to the public schools to solve them for you. You need to take your child to a non-woke therapist. If you expect the public schools, the government schools, to solve the mental health challenges that your children are having, you are going to be dramatically disappointed. I promise you, it is not going to go according to plan. It is just not. That is just reality. It is not the school's problem to solve the mental health challenges of your students. It is not the community's problem to solve the mental health challenges of your students. It is your problem as the parent, and you take them to therapy. And again, there's nothing wrong with therapy. But if you expect the government to solve the mental health problems that any of your kids are having, I promise you it's not going to go the way you think it's going to.
In some places, we can do it well everywhere. The dollars are there, the need is there, the investments can be made. We can make that priority.
And Deputy Secretary, I wanted to talk about another inequity that was really highlighted over the last year, and that's the technological divide, right? The move to remote learning really highlighted the ways that students of color, rural students, those from low-income families, often lacked the basic needs for remote learning, laptops, Wi-Fi.
Hang on, Sam is making a great point. Parents, you can solve a lot of your children's mental health problems by taking them out of the public schools and keeping them off Twitter. Yes, those are two excellent tips. The public schools are the only places that your children will likely experience actual violence in their entire lives. I understand that it's scary to take your kids out of the public schools. I understand that. But it is absolutely the best thing for them. 100%.
Working and accessible Wi-Fi. So how are you thinking about addressing, and how do we start to address that sort of digital divide? And are there ways that public policy can work to fix this?
Well, I'm glad that you named the problem and you put it in the context of how do we go after this from a broad policy perspective, because school by school, community by community, schools have addressed.
I am amazed at how much this beer tastes like a sandwich.
It's been defined in their local context.
I just am amazed.
And that's community by community. It's very different when you're talking about rural communities.
What a time to be alive.
But in some places, they've closed the digital divide with, for lack of a better term, scotch tape and bubble gum. Like, we had to get our kids learning across the country and figure out how to give them access. And in some places that proved to be very difficult. In one of the
Hang on. Shit. Hang on, I'm back. I think I'm back. Am I back? Am I back? Am I back? I was screwing around and I hit the internet cord on my computer. Am I back? Can someone please confirm that I am back? I think I'm back. Okay, Patrice says it's back. You know what happened? Is I still have the Course in Miracles sitting on my desk, and I was trying to move it, and I hit the internet cord. I hit the thing that hit the connect. I hit a cord. Okay, I'm just gonna stop touching things. This is what happens, guys. This is what happens when I leave my knitting downstairs and I have nothing to occupy my hands. I start moving shit around on my desk because I have nothing to occupy my hands. Oh God, Alex, we've apparently ascended to parenthood being abolished. I wouldn't go that far. Victor has confirmed that he will be getting me the ingredients for a fluffernutter, which I will be eating later. I was going to eat a burrito later. I even have my burrito sitting on the floor that I was going to eat later. No, it's going to be fluffernutter. It's going to be a fluffernutter.
Getting their child able to learn, and talked about access to broadband and to internet should be like a utility. Like, you have water and you have electricity and you need broadband. Like, it shouldn't be a question anymore. It should be something that this community member painted the picture of what was possible. And I would challenge us to think about, in the places where the digital divide was closed, was addressed, was that temporary? Did it get done for the moment? But then when the pandemic moves to a different stage, then that doesn't happen anymore.
You know, it takes a lot of chops to be the deputy secretary of education. Like, let's just be honest. It takes a lot of like social climbing to go from school teacher to principal to deputy secretary of education. It takes social climbing. It takes motivation. It takes intelligence. It takes a finesse. It takes knowing how to play interpersonal politics. Here's my point. She is speaking in the most generalized possible terms. She's speaking in soundbite. She's speaking in what she knows is going to play on MSNBC. Do not be fooled by this person. This person is highly intelligent and knows exactly what she needs to say to, did I say deputary? I am just resounding with credibility right now. I understand. I have made up a new word. Actually, you know what? No, I like this. This is like when we called the Newsweek reporter that did that hit piece on me, Ewan. We're not going to give any extra respect to the deputy secretary of education. But no, it takes a lot of ass kissing, but it also takes being exceptionally smart. So she's saying nothing. She is saying nothing purposefully. And I just want people to be aware of that. Like every time she's like, kids having the internet is good and mental health is good as well. And don't you want the schools to be in charge of the internet and of mental health? She knows exactly what she's doing. Let's just be aware. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Anymore, or is it a permanent solution? And that's why we talk about the American Rescue Plan and infusing the dollars to get kids online.
And that's why we need the Build Back Better bill.
But when that's over, then what happens? How has this become the long term? That's the long term investment. And it's, you know, it's a foundation for all other opportunities for our students. So I think from a policy perspective, those are really important dialogues that can be had because we see the benefit. We see what has happened when children have that type of access.
And we have a question from the audience.
No,
Gary
they don't. They
Nakagiri
planted
asks,
it. No,
you know,
planted.
about, you know, thinking about the lofty goals, right? Having equity at the root of everything. The question is really what specific sort of new policies, programs, or initiative is the Department of Education implementing to achieve those sort of lofty goals and you know, in really tangible ways that you outlined?
Well, the overall, first of all, a clear definition on equity. Lots of people can talk about equity and say that it matters, but what do we mean when we say
what
equity?
is the definition?
When I define equity and our secretary talks about equity, it's students getting what they need, when they need it, in the way that they need it, and what's inside of that. Like it's the how.
Based on what? She's defining equity as students getting what they need when they need it. Based on what? That is not the proper definition of equity, by the way. And here's the thing. If equity is just about getting the students what they need when they need it, then why hasn't the Department of Education done that already? I mean, that seems pretty simple to me. If equity is simply just about getting the students what they need when they need it, then why did they need a pandemic in order to do it? Why did they need a pandemic in order to get students what they need when they need it, if that is really the definition of equity? Why was a pandemic necessary to provide the necessary reforms to public education to achieve the dream of public education that she said earlier? If that's the real definition of equity. I'm just saying.
We have to move past admiring the problem and getting into not just what we want and why we want it. We need to get into the how. How does this happen? School by school, community by community, teacher by teacher. Do our teachers have what they need? Are principals given the support that they need to have high quality professional development? Are you prioritizing the learning of the adults, the wellness, and
Alex says we need a tinfoil hat emoji. On it. On it. On it. I will get you a tinfoil hat emoji for members of the channel. Well, no. Oh, I don't have membership on this channel. I will create membership on this channel for next time with a tinfoil hat emoji. I promise.
the well-being and mental health of the adults while you're delivering for our students. And the bold and ambitious goals of 14 years of public schooling with the 2 years of early childhood and the 2 years of community college.
Wait. So you're suggesting that in order to achieve equity, which is getting students what they need when they need it, then that really means that we need to pass Biden's Build Back Better bill, which would provide 14 years of public education instead of the requisite 12 that we have now. And that's the goal to achieving equity, is to implement Biden's Build Back Better bill. That's how we get equity, of giving students what they need when they need it, is the Build Back Better bill, which provides 14 years of education. That seems a little sus to me. I'm just saying, little sus.
Term in our future, and that those are important conversations that have to happen if we're going to deliver. I also think about the technology that you brought up,
drinking, but
all
I'm
of the things that
on
are
the
creating
ball.
access points, and
I'm just saying,
equity
I'm
is
giving
something
myself
that
a pat on the back.
has been solved in some places, but where is there a world in which learning locality and modality doesn't matter as much, and your demography does not determine your destiny? There aren't silver bullets, national solutions. The solutions come local.
What does that have to do with giving 2 free years of community college and universal pre-K? Nothing. It has nothing to do with universal pre-K and 2 years of community college.
They come with teachers. We always say, if you want to know what works, ask the people doing the work. And so those bold goals, the question from the audience is like, where are the bold things? How do we make that happen for people? I know the answers live inside the hearts and the minds of the leaders leading the work on the ground, the teachers doing this work. There's clear action for them to be able to take.
And thinking about kind of that, the change needs to happen at a local level. I've just been thinking about the reality that we are now living in, right, where we've seen a sort of hybrid, remote, in-person option at a local level. They're toggling right now. We have a question from the audience. Donna Ackerman asked, how can the educational system combine virtual and in-person learning? And I'd add on to that, like, how do we, standardize in some ways? Like for some students, virtual learning was incredibly helpful.
No.
So how do you really think about standardizing a form of hybrid learning for students?
Once again, I think there are really powerful examples of what's been emerging from the field. As I've talked to educators across the country, school superintendents and principals, and even families, parents have told me what they've experienced. And some like, this was actually working. I want to continue this. This wasn't working. When you talk about equity, it's student by name and by need. And so you're asking, like, how do you standardize this if this was working? That is what I know all of the local districts are figuring out. How do we, if we prioritize equity, we want to make sure that students have access for in-person learning, because we know how important that is, and we know that that's successful. That's the best way to see the kids with their teachers. There's nothing like it. And we know that there's other things that have been working for some students. And so some of the great models that are out there, we can lift up through at the Department of Education through our best practices clearinghouse. So we begin to add to the field. And from that, it's like a ground up approach. From that, I think you get at the standardization you're talking about, but it's not standardizing at the national level. It's a ground up grassroots approach, because it's being solved by the needs of the students at the local level, instead of an outside solution being popped down and saying, here's how you fix this, here's how you standardize it. We're seeing what's emerging is meeting the needs of our students, because it's coming from the in the moment decisions as you design what your children and your communities need to be successful and thrive. And what I know better than anything else is that leave it to great principals, superintendents, teachers, and school board members to take wise actions that are based on the successes that they're currently seeing.
Okay, pop quiz for the chat. Pop quiz, just to see if you guys are paying attention. What did she just say? Practically speaking, what did she just say? We can rewind it and watch it again, but I want to see what you guys took from what she just said. I want to see if you guys are paying attention. We're going to see if you're on the ball. Apparently I'm already getting drunk. I haven't had that much to eat today. This was probably my fatal flaw. I haven't had that much to eat today. I had like 2 empanadas earlier and that was it. Now I'm drinking beer. Yup, exactly. Esther, she said nothing. Nat D has no idea. Sin, word salad. Word salad. Nothing. She said word salad. Oh, you guys are so good. Oh, I'm so proud. I just heard sounds. You guys are so I feel like I'm actually a teacher and I've been able to teach you guys that she said nothing. No, you guys are all smart enough to learn that on your own. That didn't come from me. But like I really do feel proud right now that every single person here feels on a practical level like she just literally said nothing. She was literally, to Sin's point, she was literally like Charlie Brown's teacher. She was like wah 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 wah. That's all she said. She said nothing of substance or value. Nothing at all.
We might see things that aren't working, but when we see what's working in terms of some students have been thriving in this, take that as a point of light and figure out how do you sustain that and replicate that and scale that, because that thing was working for 20 kids. And if it worked for 20 kids or 50 kids or 100 kids, what part of that should remain? And I think there's a lot of reckoning people are doing about what got created during this time that's going to stick. Some things got created as an emergency response and it was just a temporary thing that had to happen and it moves away a year from now. But some things got developed that it's like the beginning of innovation. I think of it as springtime when the tree is blooming, the flowers are, like when innovation happens, you're on to something. When you're on to something that's working and it's checking what we believe around equity, it's giving access where access wasn't there, why would we stop that? It gets then to, you're saying, can we standardize that? If that was working, let's standardize that and make that happen. And I know that's what smart school boards and superintendents and principals and educators are doing.
Yeah, Alex just summed it up really well. Really well. La, la, la. If we work with communities for the community and provide equity for communities to be communally equitable. Exactly. Exactly. I feel like I want to watch Brave New World later. That's kind of what I want. Has anyone seen like the old school, like 70s version of Brave New World? We should do a movie night in my locals. Holy shit. We haven't done a movie night in my locals since Harrison Bergeron. We should do a movie night in my locals and we should watch the old school Brave New World with like the 70s jumpsuits. It was incredible. It was amazing. It's on YouTube. It's amazing. It's really good.
Across the country, they're leaning in to those things that actually worked and saying, wow, we discovered something here that might have some potential.
Actually, Melissa, this is a really good idea. We should watch Logan's Run. Logan's Run is a great movie. Yeah, we haven't had a movie night in a while. We had Harrison Bergeron movie night and we had never had a movie night since. We should watch it. See, the problem with movie night is we can really only watch movies that are publicly available on YouTube. And so we have to find the like covert, the illegal streams, essentially. I never liked Brazil. I've tried to watch Brazil like 18 times and I have not gotten. I like 1984. I like that movie. Yeah, Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange is badass, man. That is a good movie. We can have lots of movies and movie nights for locals. We just have to make sure they're on YouTube so that everyone can watch them without having to rent them or pay. That is the only thing that I ask.
And the proof is in, did our children get something that they needed that helped them to be successful? And it's a long-term investment. Let's keep this around.
Yes.
Let's take this to scale. Let's
Best
replicate
movie
this
ever.
and let's make this sustainable, which is why it's not just the American Rescue Plan, American Families Plan. It's Building Back Better is cementing. If you want to standardize some of the things that have been helpful, how do we cement this? Not for a short-term recovery, but for a long-term viability of our nation and our public school system. There's so much hope and possibility in your question as local people figure this out.
Yeah.
Wait.
We have to leave
Hang
it
on.
there.
Patrice, you're telling me we can have movie night on Discord? I need to learn how to use Discord. Okay, I acknowledge this. I'm going to learn how to fucking use Discord this weekend. I promise. I promise I will learn how to use Discord. All right? Jesus.
But Deputy Secretary Martin, thank you so much for joining us. It was a fantastic conversation.
It was my pleasure, and I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of your questions today and to be in dialogue with
I
you.
agree.
And thank you to the
It is
Atlantic.
great.
And I know AFT sponsored this just to bring people together to have these dialogues. The conversation really matters. And at the department, Dr. Cardona and I are very committed to equity and being a service agency and being in dialogue with the local communities, doing great work for our children. Thanks for this opportunity.
Next up, a session brought to you by
Randy!
our underwriter, the American Federation of Teachers.
Excellent.
AFT
Randy looks
President
crazy,
Randy
doesn't she?
Weingarten addresses
Let's hear
the
it,
Atlantic
Randy.
Festival.
Let's hear it. Ooh, a promo.
Students and school staff are settling into the third straight school year under the cloud of the coronavirus pandemic. And while returning to school is going well in many places, it's painful to watch where outbreaks of COVID-19, many of which could have been prevented, are leading to widespread quarantines.
Children are not dying,
school
Randy.
closures, over
Jesus
1,000 in the
Christ.
first few weeks of classes, illness, and even death. Schools are places of
Does Randy Weingarten not understand that children get sick? Like, people get sick. I used to work at a college. And I literally had my office connected to a stairwell that went into a dorm. You know what happened? I got sick an awful effing lot. You want to know why? Because people get sick. They get sick. That is a fact of life. Wait, you got banned from Discord? How is it possible? How is it fucking possible that you got banned on Discord, Charles? Wow. My God.
learning and opportunity. But our first priority is to protect the lives of students and staff, an obligation that had never been questioned before COVID, but has taken on new urgency.
Oh
in the
my
last few
God. Did you just hear what she said? Our first obligation is to protect the lives of students and staff, an obligation that had never been questioned before COVID. Let's just rewind that real quick. Randy Weingarten is basically martyring herself on the altar of COVID. Oh, I don't want to go back that far. Jesus.
Addresses the Atlantic.
Which could have been prevented, are leading to widespread quarantines, school closures, over 1,000 in the first few weeks of classes.
Stunning and brave, Randy.
illness, and even
Stunning
death.
and brave.
Schools are places of learning and opportunity. But our first priority is to protect the lives of students and staff, an obligation that had never been questioned before COVID. But
I'm
has
sorry. Randy, did you ever shut down in-person learning over a cold before? Did you ever shut down in-person learning for 2 fucking years, leading to demonstrable and unprecedented learning loss among an entire generation over a cold that had no impact on students at all in any way? I'm not yelling at anyone in the chat. I'm not yelling at anyone watching. You guys all know this. But if you as a parent are not fucking infuriated over Randy Weingarten and what she and the teachers unions have done to the public schools, I'm sorry. If you are more offended right now that I have a tone than you are about what this woman has done to public schools and a generation of people that we are not going to be able to fix in our lifetime because she was scared of getting a fucking cold, if you are more offended at my tone than you are at that, then you are the person that needs to hear this. That's all I'm saying.
taken on new urgency in the last few weeks. Our kids need to be in school. They need to stay in school. And it has to be safe.
Look at at that!
AFT's focus
Holy shit!
throughout-
Holy shit! Holy shit! Look at that! Wait.
Our kids need to be in school. They need to stay in school. And it has
Look at that! Just look at that for a second. That is an entire generation of pod people. They're in literal fucking pods. None of them are looking at each other. None of them are talking to each other. They're literally in their own walled off pod. That is not healthy. Oh my God. Look at how sad they all look. This girl right here, she has no life in her eyes at all. No life in her eyes at all. Wow. They think this is normal. They think this is acceptable.
to be safe. AFT's focus throughout the pandemic has been the safety of those we serve and those we
Look at that
represent.
teacher.
And that's why during this surge of the
Oh
Delta
my
variant,
God.
we have continued to advocate for safe in-person school with the layered
I'm sorry I'm
mitigation
yelling,
that
but this is
CDC
crazy.
recommends. Masking, physical distancing, surveillance testing, outbreak control, and ventilation upgrades. And the most effective way to protect lives, vaccination, for those who can get it. This school year was to be a time of recovery and renaissance. But before we reimagine public education, in order
Holy
to
shit.
ensure that children are the knowledge and critical thinkers and have those skills to navigate a rapidly changing world, we need to open schools safely. That some policymakers, some governors are using kids as pawns to advance their own political agendas or to pretend that COVID is not a problem or doesn't exist. That is unconscionable.
Keep in mind that this was filmed prior to the November 21 election of Glenn Youngkin as the governor of Virginia. Randy Weingarten stumped for Glenn Youngkin's opponent in Virginia. Randy Weingarten spoke at the final rally for Terry McAuliffe in Virginia before Election Day.
Unconscionable and unacceptable. AFT has matched our commitment to safe reopening of schools with funding and a GOTV type campaign. We've made scores of grants available, totaling $5 million for this Back to School for All campaign. 1,800 of our local unions that educate more than 20 million kids.
Oh my God, I cannot. Guys, if you hate Randy Weingarten as much as I do, please make sure you mount that like button for me. I would really appreciate it. Nat D says, the people who scream Whole Foods and Nordstrom's. Hey man, I like Whole Foods. I do. I don't like, so Whole Foods, fun fact, Whole Foods in New Hampshire is like literally the only place I occasionally go. I don't go that often, maybe once a month. Whole Foods is the only place that I go in New Hampshire where I see people wearing masks. The only place. I got yelled at at Whole Foods by the guy whose job it is to get shopping carts in the parking lot for not wearing a mask. It's like, all right, dude, relax.
Are participating.
Trader Joe's
Some
is better.
locals have sponsored
I do
vaccination
both.
clinics. Others are inviting parents into schools to highlight.
Wait. Why is that child getting vaccinated without the permission of his parents?
We've made scores of grants available, totaling $5 million for this Back to School for All campaign. 1,800 of our local unions that educate more than 20 million kids are participating. Some locals have sponsored vaccination clinics. Others are inviting.
Why is that child getting vaccinated without his parents? Why are the teachers unions sponsoring vaccination clinics where it looked to me like a child was getting vaccinated without their parents being there? I'm sorry, what? We don't have Publix in New Hampshire, dude. We don't have Publix in. We have Trader Joe's and Whole Foods and Shaw's, and Market Basket, and I don't know, maybe a couple others.
parents into schools to highlight the health safeguards in place and to answer questions. Still others have canvassed door to door this summer and fall to encourage families to send their kids back to
You know what's really good at Trader Joe's? The mushroom ravioli. Really good at Trader Joe's. Top notch.
school, with a special focus on the students who attended little or no school last year. We sponsored billboards and fairs all across America.
Oh, a fair.
And since August 1st, I've visited communities in 20 states and Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico to support these efforts. This is a moment to create safe and welcoming environments in every school so we can help kids not only recover from the disruptions of the past 18 months, but help them thrive. This is the promise and purpose of public schools, to help individual students thrive, to help our communities rise. This will heal our nation. So
Public
now,
schools will heal
in
our
this extraordinary
nation.
time,
No.
teachers and students, staff are hard at work. Staff and educators have been hard at work since the start of this pandemic, and they have one of the highest vaccination
Oh,
rates
hang
of
on.
any
Hang on.
profession.
I just want to show you guys something. I gotta find it. Hang on.
Our nation. So now, in this extraordinary time, teachers and students, staff are hard at work. Staff and educators have been hard at work.
What's that? What's that right there? What is this right here? What is this? What is that? Does that look like a camera in the classroom? Does that look like a camera in the classroom? Does that look like a camera in the classroom to you? That looks like a camera in the classroom to me. What's that? That looks like to me that the teachers' unions are supporting cameras in classrooms. I have not seen a better endorsement for cameras in classrooms than I have just seen on this video. Endorsed by, hang on, I'm making an image to tweet, obviously. Endorsed by the teachers' unions. Cameras in classrooms. Who could have ever come up with such a brilliant idea? Not Matt Walsh. It looks like Randy Weingarten and the teachers' unions are supporting cameras in classrooms to me. I'm just saying.
Since the start of this pandemic, and they have one of the highest vaccination rates of any profession. 90% of AFT members are fully vaccinated to protect themselves and others. They are focused not only on students' academic growth, but on their social and emotional needs, knowing that the disruptions and isolations during the last 18 months have led to a surge in depression and anxiety. Teachers can't do this alone. Neither can school staff. We need wraparound services right in our schools. We need counselors and nurses. They can't be stretched so thin that children's needs go unmet as they are right now. We need more community schools where students and families can access medical and mental health services, social supports, food assistance, and other urgent needs so students can focus on learning and on just being kids. I've been in awe of the energy and creativity teachers put into keeping students connected and moving forward during the school closures, the remote, hybrid learning, and all the uncertainty. And as I've crisscrossed the country, I've seen educators put that energy and creativity into students' academic recovery and acceleration. I've seen both the trepidation and the unmistakable joy and excitement that students, parents, and school staff have had as they head back to in-person teaching and learning. And here's another thing. Places that have been most successful in school reopening are where educators, our unions, superintendents, and school boards and city and town officials are working together, are collaborating, are transparent. That's what creates trust. We need to do what helps students recover, and that's project-based learning. It really engages students. It puts them in the driver's seat of their learning. Literacy unlocks all other learning. And literacy in science and civics, whose importance has been made crystal clear by the climate crisis, pandemic, and the grave threats to American democracy. And then there's art, music, movement. These are the things that ignite students' creativity, it develops their capabilities, and it creates joy. And after a period that was hard on everyone and really hard on many children, they need to connect with their peers and with adults that deeply care about them and are there for them. That's public education. I won't gloss over how challenging this year has been or the recovery will be. And the Delta variant has thrown us a curveball. And frankly, there are far too many places where adults, like these governments, are not keeping our schools, our communities safe. Students are returning with immense needs, social, emotional, academic, and physical. And the Biden administration has led efforts to get additional staffing and support to students. But it's impossible to overstate how great the needs are. Teachers and school staff have just been through the second hardest year of their professional lives. The hardest is the school year that has just gotten underway. And there's no denying that our country is deeply divided. But I believe that our public schools are one of the most vital contributors to healing those divides. We have learned during this pandemic that one thing that most Americans agree on is the importance of strong, supported public schools. They're foundational to our communities. And one thing I can assure you of is this: America's educators, the people who show up every day in this hope-filled profession, are doing all they can to meet these challenges, to help our children recover and grow, and to help them find joy every day. Our job, regardless of circumstances, is to help our kids thrive. And that's what we are trying to do every single day of this school year. Thank you.
Wow. Randy. Stunning and brave. Stunning and brave, Randy. Sorry, I know I wasn't doing commentary. I was on the Twitters tweeting out the support the teachers unions have for cameras in classrooms.
To discuss implementing solutions, please welcome Kevin Carey, Vice President of Education Policy and Knowledge Management at New America, Jean Desravines, CEO of New Leaders, and Talisa Dixon, Superintendent of Columbus City Schools. Susan Salney is back to lead the conversation.
Thank you all for joining us. The pandemic brought disparities front and center, and there's no playbook for such unprecedented times in the classroom. So let's start here. What does this school year need to look like so that students will be in a better place when it's finished? So that terms like learning loss and lost year are all past tense. If we're future oriented, we need this school year to accomplish so much. Where does one begin? Dr. Dixon, could you start us off with your experience in the Columbus City schools?
No sound. Mute.
Yes.
Mute. Virtual learning all year doesn't know how to unmute themselves.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So Columbus City Schools is the largest school district in the state of Ohio, and we have a little under 50,000 students. And for us, it was so important that we were able to get students back in and get them engaged in learning. So when it started for us for this summer, we decided to have a summer experience and not just summer school. We did not want to focus on learning loss because we believe that all of our students lost something. We wanted to focus on getting our students engaged in learning and having fun again. So we had about 8,000 students doing project-based learning activities for the entire summer. We partnered with Ohio State University and had social workers and psychologists doing SEL opportunities for our students. So for us, it was engaging our students to have fun
Why are they prioritizing SEL? Why are they prioritizing SEL over academics?
learning, to be back with one another, and our teachers focusing on our students' social and emotional learning needs.
Right. I think that underscores that this is a moment when school leadership matters so much. And Jean, your work prepares education leaders for some of the country's highest need schools. Have any of your efforts and priorities changed because of the pandemic in terms of what makes a good school leader now in our new normal?
It's a great question. I think the pandemic underscores the importance of transformative school leaders, leaders who can create a culture of high expectations, who can ensure that they're providing a holistic education for school children, who can ensure that their teachers, staff are cared for. And to your point, that is the work that we have undertaken over the past year and a half to 2 years during the pandemic. What's become crystal clear is that the school is actually the unit of change, that parents, family members send their kids to school. And oftentimes, that school leader plays a critical role in creating the culture, setting the vision, ensuring that all of the adults and children are taken care of. And that work has been heightened as part of the pandemic.
Right. Dr. Dixon, it sounded like you wanted to add something.
Oh, no, I would just say I totally agree. School leadership matters. And I say to my team all the time, people remember their teachers and their leaders. They don't remember their superintendents. So it is important for us
Right. Well, they don't
to
remember their leaders
prepare
either, to
our
be
leaders
honest.
well, so that they not only know the work and own the work, they understand the work that needs to be done. So I totally concur that school leadership is a non-negotiable. You have to have good leaders leading this very important work.
Let's talk about equity for a moment. Kevin, you've argued
hang
that
on. Do leaders leading this very important work, do they need to be like I don't even know the word. I lost the word. I've had too much to drink. I've lost the word. God damn it. I was DMing with someone and it was like I got distracted. Okay, I'm refocusing. I'm refocusing on happy hour. I have a team of people here with me. I'm refocusing on happy hour. I had a client DMing me, which is what was happening. But I've refocused on you guys.
school districts, their boundaries are at the heart of school funding disparities, that there's
Oh, wait,
structures
I know
of
what I was going to say.
discrimination.
I was going to say something like, do those effective school leaders need to be able to talk on a webinar without a script? Because I don't have an effing script right now. I'm reacting in real time. Do these leaders who are obviously reading off a script, all of them, because all of them have the questions in advance, do they need to be able to talk without a script? Yes. Sin, it is good. The real problem is I haven't had that much to eat today. But that's okay. We're going to get through this. It's going to be fine.
And you've called this, quote, a corrupt and irredeemable system that needs to be ripped out root and branch and replaced with something better. Can you tell us what you think would be better and why?
Thank you. Yeah, I think one of the things that the pandemic made even more clear, not that it wasn't clear before, is that a lot of our great school leaders and a lot of the worthwhile efforts that have been put forth in the last
I
several
did have a
decades
moment.
to improve
Okay. I did.
K-12 education have been done on top of a system of unequal foundations.
It just smells so good.
That the way that we organize and finance public education in America is unequal. It has roots in
Based on what?
often
Systemic racism?
explicitly racist public policies that were designed
Oh!
to segregate certain kinds of students in some districts.
So this white guy is saying our school systems are unequal. I'm sorry, like if your school systems are unequal, then why have you then why haven't you had your funding pulled? Because that seems to be a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act to me. He's being such a good straight white man right now. Well, I'm not assuming he's straight. I shouldn't assume that he's straight or cis, I suppose, but let's just listen to that again. God damn it.
Made even more clear, not that it wasn't clear before, is that a lot of our great school leaders and a lot of the worthwhile efforts that have been put forth in the last several decades to improve K-12 education have been done on top of a system of unequal foundations. That the way that we organize and finance public education in America is unequal. It has roots in often explicitly racist public policies that were designed to segregate certain kinds of students in some districts and to separate them from others. And often those districts don't have the same level of financial resources, either in the local property taxes that they're able to raise or the amount of money that's provided by state governments. And so when we saw that some districts, for example, didn't have the facilities and the staff that they needed in order to provide healthy and productive in-person education to students, others did. And it's kind of obvious which were which. So what we really need is a combination of the kind of great leadership that we see in districts
So
like Columbus.
is this guy implying that that you can only get great leadership when you have equity and you don't have equity because schools are inherently racist? Why are the public schools inherently racist? Is if the great problem of education is of public education, hang on. Pause. If the great promise of public education is to be fulfilled, then why is this white man getting up and saying the public schools are inherently racist? And if the public schools are inherently racist, then why are we even bothering to fund them in the first place? See, I got there. I got there eventually. My mouth caught up with my brain. It's fine. It's the beer. It's Friday. It's happy hour. Sue me.
Organizations like New Leaders are provided, but also an equitable level of education funding that frankly has never been provided in this country.
Yeah, and sort of on that note, the Columbus City School District, I understand, has about 6,000 vulnerable youth with needs more urgent than ever. Some national research has indicated that families of color are often hesitant about the return to in-person classes, and this is for health and safety reasons. What strategies are targeted toward this group, and how do we engage and enrich the school experience for them? Dr. Dixon, maybe you start us off.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I mean, we have to create more equitable systems, but it starts for us of focusing on our students and families. Prior to the pandemic, even I as a leader, I was just focused on teaching and learning and trying to make sure that our students understood the reason that they were in school and how important that was. And that was a non-negotiable. But I even had to make a change and say, wow, if we're not focused on students' basic needs and their families' needs, we're never going to be able to engage our kids again, right? And so our community came together to help with those resources, from partners helping us with hotspots and computers, all of those things that we didn't have at that time, going back to not having the funding to support all of our students. But what we have focused on now is that trust with our families. And we're saying to our families, just trust us. We care about your students. We want to make sure that their social and emotional needs will be met.
No.
We want to make sure that they have the tools
Not
to
your
be successful in
job.
the classroom.
Not
And I don't think we
your
did enough of that
job.
engagement prior. I think we send kids to school and they learn, we send them back home. And as leaders, we may call them if there's a problem or if there's an activity when kids are going to be recognized. But we've had to change to a culture of a caring culture where we all care about our students' needs. And it's not about making that phone call because students are doing well. It's about us creating a system where we're checking on our families just because we care about those families. So we have family ambassadors in our district. We have 95 so far. We've asked them to make 20 calls each week, each ambassador, 20 calls each week to our families just to check on our families. And the impact of that, 20 calls each week by 90 people. So those are the impacts and the changes we have to make in order to for families to trust us with their students, and then trust that we're going to build a system that's going to address all of our students' individual needs. And we have to do better at that.
I love that term you used, culture of care,
Yeah.
in regard to the students. And has your return rate been high?
So far, this is our 5th week back in school. And so we are missing a few thousand students, about 2,500 students that we are, focusing on capturing. However, we had 5,000 students.
Does it bother anyone else? And I know this is probably just a semantics thing, but does it bother anyone else that she just says that they're capturing students? That bothers me a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
5,300 students who were online last year on our total online academy. This year, only 547 students. Families. So our families wanted our students back in school. They wanted them back in front of their teachers.
Do the work needs to be
in
a
those
bingo
environments where they were supported in person. And we're all in masks, and we're going to continue to wear masks. But they're back with us, and we really appreciate that because they trust us, and they trust that we're going to do well by their students and build those supports, those supportive classrooms and schools for each of our students.
That's what it sounds like. Let's talk about representation for a moment. Jean, the issue around representation for students.
Okay, I'm sorry. I need to split for 1 second. I need to pee real bad. I'm sorry, guys. I will be back in like 1 minute. I'm like the fastest bathroom break person on the planet, but I actually do want to hear this, so I just need to pause it. Talk among yourself in the chat. I will be back in like 30 seconds. God damn it. You guys didn't believe me when I said how fast I'd be back. You guys didn't believe me. I know it. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, ye of little faiths. Okay, I'm sorry. That's like a bathroom break for everyone. God damn it. I've only taken like 2 bathroom breaks in the history of happy hour. It's just like it had to be done. I'm sorry. We have 12 minutes left to go, and I actually want to be paying attention to what's going on and not like saying, I need to pee, I need to pee, I need to pee. No, I didn't wash my hands. It's all right. I'll wash them after I get done. It'll be fine. It's fine. I did do some hand sanitizer. It's okay. I did hand sanitizer. God. I have a whole bottle of hand sanitizer.
Students of color is important, and students seeing people who look like them at the top matters. But the percentage of Black principals is substantially lower than the percentage of students of color. How is New Leaders, your organization, working to change this? And have you been able to move the needle at all?
Watch, I'm not going to touch my face or anything.
It is such an important question.
You guys are awful.
The majority of our students across the country are students of color. Yet,
look how serious he is.
Less than 20% of all principals in the country are principals of color. And what the research and our experience have shown is that representation matters. It matters for students, and it matters for teachers.
I wanted to get back quickly
for you guys. The number one factor why teachers, particularly teachers of color, leave education is because of their leadership, recognizing how incredibly important representation is. We have focused on increasing representation from the onset. So of the 6,000 leaders we have developed and supported over the past 20 years, 65% are leaders of color. They stay in their roles longer. They're able to drive greater student achievement gains than their peers. They're able to help increase attendance, decrease suspension. And while we have been able to be successful, we believe there's much more that needs to be done. We recently partnered with 2 historically Black colleges where we will be launching a fully online version of our program to drastically scale the number of equity-focused Black and Hispanic leaders going into the principalship.
That sounds like a great program in terms of scaling up. Let's talk about the administration's plans and education for a moment. Kevin, President Biden has introduced a new plan that includes a $20 billion program for high poverty school districts. You've called this the first serious effort in more than a generation to repair the uneven foundation of school funding. Does the Biden plan have a real chance of making progress on the problem of America's inequitable school funding?
I think it's a step in the right direction. As we all know, Congress is in the middle of negotiating this and many other proposals for large-scale change in education, in healthcare, in childcare, in climate. So we'll find out over the next few weeks whether this part of President Biden's proposal makes it through that process.
No.
You know, it's a big challenge from a national level. The federal government only provides about 10% of all the funding that goes to our K-12 public schools, much less than it provides to higher education or transportation or healthcare or almost any of our major national priorities. And so that has historically limited its ability to act as an.
Is he insinuating that funding public education is a greater priority than like the roads or like bridges or things that, or is that what he's insinuating? I don't think that's that big of a priority. How about, I've got a great idea. We're going to listen to that part again. But how about, I've got an idea. We just defund the public schools, give parents back that money, let parents figure out how to educate their kids, and then the problem will be solved. We don't have to worry about it anymore. I think that sounds like a great solution.
You've called this the first serious effort in more than a generation to repair the uneven foundation of school funding.
Why is it? Hang on. I'm sorry. Did I miss the part where Obama was president for 8 years? I missed this part earlier. I think I was thinking about peeing. Like, did I miss the part where Obama was president for 8 years and you're calling this the first effort in a generation in order to fix public school funding? What the fuck did Obama do? What did Obama do? Where was Obama for 8 years if public education wasn't fixed under Obama? That's what she just said. Hang on.
That sounds like a great program in terms of scaling up. Let's talk about the administration's plans and education for a moment. Kevin, President Biden has introduced a new plan that includes a $20 billion program for high poverty school districts. You've called this the first serious effort in more than a generation to repair the uneven foundation of school funding. Does the Biden plan have a real chance of making progress on the problem of America's inequitable school funding?
No.
I think it's a step in the right direction. As we all know, Congress is in the middle of negotiating this and many other proposals for large-scale change in education, in healthcare, in childcare, in climate. So we'll find out over the next few weeks whether this part of President Biden's proposal makes it through that process. You know, it's a big challenge from a national level. The federal government only provides about 10% of all the funding that goes to our K-12
Oh,
public schools,
boo-hoo.
much less than it provides to higher education or transportation or healthcare or almost any of our major national priorities. And so that has historically limited its ability to act as an agent of equity. So this is going to have to be a partnership with state and local governments. But I do think that the president, in his role as the man who can stand in the bully pulpit, has a way of shifting our priorities, elevating the issue of K-12 funding equity and justice to be a national priority in a way that, frankly, it hasn't been for quite some time. You know, we've spent a lot of time over the last few decades talking about ideas like standards and accountability. And, you know, I think there's a place for those things. I'm not opposed to standards or accountability. But those kind of
Except when it's
systems don't work very
accountability to the
well
public,
if
and
you're
then he
asking educators
probably
to meet
isn't
the
much
same
of a
high standards,
fan.
but not providing the same level of resources as other places. They all have to fit together. And I think President Biden is the first president in quite some time who has said, this is a major priority for me, and I hope we see that continue.
Mm. And just to follow up on that for a moment, you said if Congress enacts the president's plan, that the most lasting effect may not be the funding it provides, but the precedent it sets. Or to that point, are you optimistic that true structural change might happen? And I want to open that question up to the others as well.
Structural change.
Structural change is difficult. So, you know, optimistic, I'm aspirational. But we have to kind of move forward. I went to graduate school in Columbus, Ohio, at Ohio State University. And
The Ohio State
you know, back
University.
then, there was a lawsuit afoot in Ohio where a bunch of school districts had sued the state because they weren't getting equitable funding. And
hang on, Patrice. Utah governor sent out email today saying they're not in favor of school choice because our public school teachers don't make enough to pay for housing. I'm sorry. No, that is incorrect. I have been to Utah. I have house hunted in Utah. I almost moved to Utah. Well, this was a long time ago. This is in a former life. That's bullshit, though. I'm sorry. This is why Republicans are awful and not to be trusted. No offense to any Republicans in the chat, but this is why Republicans are awful. It's like when Utah, of all places, have prices skyrocketed. Well, still, I'm sorry. That is not a reason not to be in favor of school choice. And I know you know that. Utah is beautiful, by the way. Like, Salt Lake City is like legitimately beautiful. It is a legitimately beautiful place. I love being in Salt Lake City, actually.
You know, what happened was they won the lawsuit, and then the state legislature said, yeah, we'd rather not. We're not going to comply with that. These are very difficult things to do. They go to some basic values and commitments that state level leaders have to make. But that's exactly why you need a strong federal role to bring everyone along.
Anyone else feel that this could be a moment for big or even small structural change?
I think so. I think what we've seen so far with a lot of
Sin loved
federal
leaving
funding that
Salt
we
Lake City
have
for
goes
Vegas.
to cover these learning loss and address the gaps that we are seeing, I think is a step in the right direction.
Here's a question. Why were all of these teachers surprised that there was learning loss during the pandemic? You should not trust any single teacher that was surprised at the fact that there was learning loss during the pandemic. Do not ever trust that person ever, 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 ever again. That teacher has no judgment, and that teacher does not know what they're doing. I have never been I guess primary, secondary school teacher in my life. I have done adjuncting in universities, but like, it was blatantly obvious to me the minute they forced children to wear masks that there was going to be learning loss. So if any teacher is surprised that there was learning loss, that is not a person worth listening to.
But what I hope does, that it cannot happen is that we go back to be held to the same standards, right? So, and I think that policy change is what's needed. So you can give school districts money, and this time you kind of have more money than what you can utilize in that time span. But if you hold us back to those same standards, then what? because we recognize that our students, there is a loss. That, our students did not get what they would have gotten had they been with us that whole time. So those were some of the policy changes I think are paramount. Give us more money, yes. Allow us to have some flexibility to be innovative, because we know our families, our students, and we could create some different systems, still hold us accountable. I think accountability is right. We want to be held accountable to teaching a standard so that our students can get the outcomes, the desired outcomes that we know that they can do, provide. But flexibility is important. And I think the policy making, I think that's where a lot of change has to come. So we got to get better policies that's going to allow us to make those necessary changes, lasting changes.
Right.
The
Gene,
only
New
point
Leaders
I
has a very, oh, go on, please.
No, I just wanted to pick up on Kevin's point around the importance of the bully pulpit. For the past 30 years, we've been having conversations around equitable funding, and we have not been able to move the needle in any significant way in many of the
What does
states.
it mean to move the needle? What does
The
that mean?
administration with the president's bully pulpit plays an integral role in trying to underscore the moral imperative of this. And I am cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to make more progress than we've made in the past.
I'm glad to hear that. And the next question is actually for you. New Leaders has a large alumni network trained over the last 20 years in more than 20 districts. What are you hearing from them right now?
Hang on. Nat D, you should come to New Hampshire. You should come to Pork Fest in New Hampshire. Pork Fest tickets are about to sell out. If anyone wants to come to Pork Fest and has not bought their ticket yet, you should absolutely buy your ticket. Nat D, I'm looking at you because that'll be a great opportunity to see New Hampshire, which is the #1 free state in the country, not the #2 free state like Florida. Come on. But if you buy your Pork Fest tickets now before it sells out, you are going to be able to resell those on the secondary market for like more money, because there will be a secondary market, and this will be the first, this is the year that Pork Fest is going to sell out earlier than any other year in history. So come up for Pork Fest, buy your tickets. Pork Fest, Tori, is a great libertarian festival at the end of June in New Hampshire. It is in the White Mountains. It is on a campground. It is an entirely libertarian community, and it pops up, and they have presentations, and they have libertarian things to do, and it's awesome. It is the best thing ever. It is like a vacation with your best friends in the middle of the woods where you get to relax and do really whatever you want to do in the middle of the woods in New Hampshire for a week if you want to come for the whole week. But it is about to sell out, so buy your tickets. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay more on the secondary market because they're going to go. Well, yeah, but you can also, but like, yes, it is best to come to New Hampshire in the fall when the leaves change. That is best. But summer in the White Mountains, dude, it's pretty good. It's like pretty good. It's pretty awesome. It really is.
Now, Gene.
There is this sense of, it's polar opposites in terms of how people, there's this sense of people feeling tired, frustrated by what's been happening, the burden that they have had to deal with in terms of not only working with their students, but families, communities, and teachers just being burnt out, this level of uncertainty. And at the same level, there is this tremendous amount of hope and optimism that what will emerge out of this is a reimagination of what's possible for students, particularly students who
Hang on. Pork Fest is not a furry event. It stands for Porcupine. Porcupine is the mascot of the Free State Project. It's PORCFEST. It is not a furry event. I promise you it is not a furry event. Although there is naked yoga, and last year most of the people who showed up for naked yoga were men, although women did show up eventually. But, you know, let's be honest, it was mostly men for like a minute. It was.
Have been underrepresented and underestimated. That this is an opportunity not to, as Superintendent Dixon discussed, not only to help address learning loss, but to drive acceleration, to create a new school that benefits all of our students.
This guy
and
is
that
way too
gives them
serious. I
tremendous
cannot take this guy
optimism and
seriously.
hope.
I'm sorry. I know I should be listening, but I can't take this guy seriously.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's a wonderful thing.
Nor can I
Dr.
take this
Dixon, can we
woman
talk
seriously.
for a moment about the newer battles that have come to schools of late, battles about mask mandates and vaccines and how we teach our nation's history?
Yes,
We know
I was
that
going to
school
say
boards
critical
and
race
parents
theory.
can often be at odds here, but I'd like to know how these conflicts affect the students, how you see that, and how and what they're learning.
There is definitely barbecue at
Yeah,
Pork
thank
Fest,
you.
by
That's
the way.
a great question. For us, we are a majority urban school district. So when we're talking about mask mandates, our families, we've been in masks since February. So we wore a mask during our summer.
Wait, what is being an urban family have to do with accepting mask mandates? Could she mean Democrat when she says urban? Could she mean Democrat? I think she does.
Experience. Our families expected that. They wanted us to stay in mask because we think about in a large urban city, some of the disparities of healthcare and people not trusting the vaccine.
What?
So we recognize that a lot of families are not vaccinated. They are not agreeing to their students being vaccinated thus far. So we wanted to make sure that our students are safe. So we've not had
Wow.
that conversation in our community.
So you're telling me in a city, there are people who are like, nope, not getting vaccinated. Who do you think those people were? Pop quiz for the chatsy who's still paying attention at almost 2.5 hours. Who's not getting vaccinated in cities? Pop quiz for the chat. Who, if in an urban area, who's not getting vaccinated at a district? Yes, Chris B, African Americans. Yes, that is right. Nat D, POC, Sin, Black people, Black people, Black people. Black people, POC. That's who's not getting vaccinated in urban environments. Huh. Imagine that.
Community. However, my colleagues surrounding Columbus, many of them have had those conversations in their community. So we want to make sure that we are keeping our families informed, that we are working closely with our public health providers and letting them know how important it is for our students to be vaccinated if they choose to, and the options.
Oh, they have the option?
But we in school every day is making sure that we're keeping those mitigation strategies,
nice.
keeping kids in school safe and learning. And then that's enough because kids are tired of wearing the masks. But we're trying
you don't
to
say. You don't
make
say.
it fun, give them mask breaks, etc. So that's primarily what's happening.
Can we just talk about the fact that she considers a mask break fun?
Happening with us, and to make sure that students still have organizations that partner with us. You know, we had a lot of partners that are coming to our schools to help kids, but we've had to limit that somewhat because of COVID. So the number of providers that were coming to our schools to help kids have been significantly decreased because of COVID. So we're looking to leverage technology to help our students stay connected to the many providers that they were used to being connected with before. But those other conversations around CRT and those have not, we've not had those discussions in Columbus City schools.
Well, I wish we could go on and on forever, but we're going to have to leave it there. Dr. Dixon, Kevin, Jean, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And that concludes this
He
hour of
bounced.
programming. Thank you all for joining us for this important conversation. And thank you again to the American Federation of Teachers for supporting the Atlantic Festival.
Thank you,
We have
Brent.
much more
Thank you.
planned for you today
Thank
and
you.
over the course of the next week. Take a look at the schedule for more information, and we'll see you soon.
That's all she wrote, folks. All right. Well, we made it through happy hour. I only needed one bathroom break. I'm pretty fucking drunk. I'm pretty drunk. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell Carrie on Twitter that I'm drunk. I don't know if you guys can hear that at all. Whatever. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me for happy hour. Now, I'm going to go spend some time with my husband. But if you enjoyed happy hour, please mount that like button on your way out the door. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel. And please make sure you become a member of my locals community where you get to see me acting out even when I'm not drinking. This is the part of the locals community is the place where I get to spill the tea and talk about the gossip of what's going on and act like a crazy person even when I'm not even drinking, which like you guys can tell how much I don't really drink all that much based on the fact that I'm drunk based on 2 beers. 2 beers that are 5%. I used to have so much more stamina than this. But Sin says Carlin is pretty drunk, so smash that like button. No, we're mounting it, Sin. We're still mounting it. But also, please make sure you join my locals community if you feel so inclined. You can join at kb.locals.com/support for $5 a month. You can join for $50 a year. Or you can make a one-time gift. You can also head over to activelyunwoke.com if you have been drinking enough to do some impulse buying on Amazon. Or you don't need to be on Amazon. You can do non-Amazon options as well. You can do options like Barnes & Noble or Books A Million or Simon & Schuster themselves or IndieBound or any of these other things in order to pre-order my book, Actively Unwoke. It's a pretty great book. I'm not going to lie. I named a whole chapter after James Lindsay. A whole chapter after James Lindsay. My book is awesome. I hope you guys pre-order it, and I know you're going to enjoy it. We're going to do a whole book club when the book comes out. It's going to be great. But guys, we do happy hour every week on Friday at 5 p.m. on my second channel, youtube.com/activelyunwoke. I am going to go eat my fluffernutter now and possibly have a third beer and pass out on the couch because I'm an old lady and that's what we do. But guys, I will see you on Sunday for F'd Up News. I am thinking about moving F'd Up News just a little bit earlier because we have book club at 6 p.m. on Sunday. So I'm thinking about maybe moving F'd Up News to 4 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. I will be doing an update in my locals this weekend. And guys, take care. It's Friday. Have a good time. Let your hair down. We'll see you on Sunday. Have a great rest of your day.